Hey everyone! Welcome to another unusually rambly second channel discussion. Today I want to talk about bow a little bit. So, to give some context for why I'm playing this all of a sudden, we had to play a week of the NA League in which Basil was not able to make it. So because of that, I had to sub in and play a backline. Originally I thought that would be Rapid Pro, but Rapid Pro as a solo backline does not feel great, and some of the modes are not pickable for it. So instead, it seemed like the best option for me in terms of what I could learn in like a week's time while de-resting from comp was surprisingly Tri-Stringer. It has a lot of passive pain and AoE value that I thought would be relatively simple, so I decided to go with that. And I played it. We didn't do particularly good in that week of the NA League, though we ended up working out fine for playoffs at the end of the day. But I did get to play it quite a lot. I didn't really enjoy my time with the weapon during it. I was just focused on doing well with it. There were some nice moments and some cool shots, but, you know, for the most part, nothing I really felt super attached to. But I also ended up playing the weapon a little bit more casually after the fact in some opens and solo queue, and, you know, playing it a little more dumb kind of made me appreciate the weapon a little bit more. So I want to talk about my thoughts on it, how I feel about it in a competitive setting, and all that. I want to start by talking about something that I haven't gone over too much. I mentioned this weapon has a problem with both paint and AoE spam, but one part about the weapon I didn't really fully understand until playing it is you can't really do both of those at the same time. I got a bit of coaching from Snipes, the best bow in Europe right now, for the weapon. He just kind of offered to when he saw I was playing it in solo queue randomly. And one of the things he pointed out for me is I was using my one-ring charge AoE shots a lot, and that those weren't actually great for painting, and I needed to paint with the tap shots a lot more. And that kind of put a bit of an interesting dynamic with the weapon, because now if I wanted to use the paint, I wasn't using the AoE at all, and vice versa, since I was now very aware that my one-ring AoE charges weren't actually painting all that much. And I kind of like that. It adds a good level of decision-making to where I kind of have two very powerful options, but I can only pick one at a time. And there will be moments where I can look back at a game and go, hey, my team was actually fighting here, they had plenty of paint, I should have been trying to do damage for them, or my team didn't have enough paint, the damage I was doing couldn't be followed up on. You get the picture, right? It adds a little bit more skill expression to the weapon in a way that's kind of fun and unique, and makes me enjoy it a little bit more. And I gained a bit more appreciation for the weapon after that. Now keep in mind, I do still think both of those are problems because, yeah, this weapon just shoots far too much. I think the main saber attribute of the weapon might need to be toned back a little bit. I like the idea of it having no whiting frames, though. It's kind of unique for backlines, and I kind of want it to stay. And I do agree this weapon needs to shoot a good bit more than most anchors, given it is kind of important to be putting out a consistent amount of damage or pressure. But I still feel the number right now is very overtuned, even if it's not as bad a problem as I thought it was prior. Besides that is kind of the kits and the playstyle. I'm gonna be honest, whale bow is barely ever useful, and I just don't find it fun to play anyway, so I didn't really play it very much. I played a good bit of this one, and for the first week where I was grinding for the tournament, I only played this one because having to learn jetpack on top of everything else felt like too much for me. But afterward, I started playing more Tri-Stringer for fun, like the jetpack one. And I kind of like both kits, to be honest. The weapon has good synergy with super chumps that really changes how you want to play when they're active to try to capitalize off the potential damage of the special, and I like the supportive attribute in keeping your main weapon active. But I can't lie, the Inkjet kit feels way better designed at addressing bow's problems. The fact that you have a dart that you're kind of incentivized to use for combos means the weapon's absurd uptime isn't really as big a factor. You'll have a little bit more downtime because of how often you'd be using your sub-weapon to be more aggressive. Or if you don't, then it kind of feels a little bit more penalizing. But even more importantly, you kind of got to turn into an Inkjet, which both the main and sub combo with very effectively. So it feels like it's a good way to get the weapon off of its kind of usual sit-back playstyle and force it to do something else for a little bit, while still being fun for the bow user and giving you new options to do. It made me really wish this kit was on a more equal playing field with the Chump one, because both of them being good would honestly be really cool for the game. I wish Chump was a little bit more in terms of what you had to do with it, but that's been my complaint since day one. As for this kit, outside of the obvious Inkjet needing to be stronger, it really just made me wish they actually cared to balance line marker. Because like the trail doing 20 damage, the line lasting longer, or locating people for longer, there's so many small things that could make it feel so much better. And it's kind of impressive it feels as good as it does with how bad line marker is right now. It just goes to show how insane the synergy was. I never thought something would top Rapid in terms of synergy with the main weapon. But this thing kind of does. I won't lie. I think it's a bit better. And I've really enjoyed playing it. But that's kind of another factor. I definitely think this is one of those weapons where it's a lot more fun to play casually than competitively. Once you have to be more optimal with the weapon, and the playstyle involves a bit more passive behavior and keeping your uptime up, I unfortunately think the weapon suffers a bit in its enjoyment, and Super Trip just doesn't really help with that. This weapon would feel a lot better if it was balanced between the two. But in terms of it being a design issue, I don't know, the weapon has a lot less problems than I thought. There's more skill expression to it, and there's ultimately a lot more intrigue with the weapon, and the comps you can build around it are kind of cool. I still do think the weapon could be balanced and designed a little bit better, but I guess most of them in the game could do that. I also found Object Shredder kind of interesting on it. I don't see it used that much, but it helps a bit with breaking Crab and Wave Breaker, so I found myself using that sometimes, and figuring out when I wanted to run that or not was pretty cool. I didn't play this weapon in Rainmaker as much either, but I do have other all modes experience. Turf and zones are pretty normal and where the weapon shines. Tower control is very awkward. You really want to do the inkjet kit on that one normally, and I just wasn't able to back then. And Clam Blitz was probably the mode that felt the most mediocre, because I don't think the weapon really, contributed that much. Even the AoE on Tower feels like decently useful at forcing people to one side or the other, when combined with other teammates' damage. When it comes to Rainmaker, though, I mostly just play Wellstring. Wellstring in Rainmaker is still very alive and well, and I honestly enjoyed that weapon quite a bit as well. I haven't really... I've kind of played Wellstring before, not really too much in a tournament setting, but, I use it in Rainmaker and Louis, stuff like that, a while ago. Wellstring doesn't really feel too different, other than the fact that you're using the hammer kit now, which... Yeah, that's a lot more fun usually, even if it can be a little stupid at times, so I don't got a whole lot to say about that. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm kind of enjoying this weapon a little bit. I don't think it's as bad as people say it is, and I guess the last topic I wanted to touch on is, should there be more players using the weapon? And the answer is yeah, but I kind of get why not. First off, building comps around it is hard, since it's not the cooler weapon, but we have other backlines that are like that now. I think the larger issue is this is really one of those weapons that benefits more from zones only. You can make bows work in all modes, you can do Wellstring for Rainmaker and Turf War, it's fine for NA leagues. But Tower and Clams are just kind of awkward. Yes, you have the jetpack kit, but it doesn't really change that the main weapon doesn't feel super great in those modes. And when the weapon is already really niche and requires a lot of dedication, having two modes where it's just a decent bit worse than other anchors is probably a bit too much sometimes. However, I do think with the NA League ending and more zones-only formats to come in the future, if you play competitively, it's probably going to be a bit better to do. And at lower levels, I don't think it's too big an issue, especially because I think Jetpack is a bit better at that. It doesn't get punished as hard, and you can probably learn the Inkjet one alongside it. But yeah, there's still a lot I wish this weapon would be taken in direction-wise. But right now, I do still think, yeah, this weapon has enough power and unique qualities to it where I do think there should be more people playing it. I do think a lot of people kind of just have a stigma of bow from the past 3 years of bow not being super good, and I think it's really worth reevaluating it. In particular, I feel like most backline players don't really give the weapon a real shot, and considering we have a good amount of Charger players, that kind of surprises me. Obviously, the way it goes for its one-shots aren't the same as Charger, but I feel like having, a bit of experience with that kind of aim and how to work around that would probably help a lot with transferring to this weapon, rather than someone like me who doesn't play anything really like it outside of old Expo, which, yeah, Expo really does need buffs after playing this weapon. That was something to put in perspective. But yeah, I don't know. That's just my thoughts on Tri-Stringer. I find it really interesting, and I like the weapon. I hope there are design changes in the future, but honestly, it's going to be a weapon I look at a lot more lately, and I'll probably play it a good bit more for fun while I'm enjoying it. So yeah. That's everything. Thanks for watching.